My name is James, and I thought that now would be a good time for me to share my story with Louisville Metro Police Department. Having just viewed a live stream of the Department of Justice and their investigation and findings into Louisville Metro that has been spurred by the Breana Taylor death. Um, I thought I would chip in based on what I saw there and what I listened to. And my story goes something like this. I currently live in the Nashville, Tennessee area, which is where I was born and raised. But for several years, I lived in the Louisville area. Um, my incident happened when I lived downtown Louisville and off of West Muhammad Ali Boulevard, um, which I had not spent much time in that area at all ever. When I moved there with a coworker. I moved to Louisville as a restaurant manager at Sonic, the location on Winkler Avenue, which is now closed. A friend and assistant manager secured an apartment um, in what appeared to be a large house, a nice house that had been divided into apartments. And we were both financially struggling, and the place was nice and big and spacious, and we enjoyed the living space while we were there. But another friend from out of town came to visit and questioned my safety because I was living in quote unquote the hood. Uh, there were several times where I guess I felt unsafe, but the most unsafe I felt was in my dealing with the police, which went like this. Uh, and I'll give the entire story, the ending of it as well, just to sort of give perspective, I guess. So I was then a marijuana user, a weed smoker. I got down to I was smoking regularly every day. I got down to my last helping of weed, my last blunt, if you want to say it like that. Made a phone call, secured another bag, and took the last blunt that I had for the drive to pick up the bag and come home. So I went and picked up the bag, um, saved the smoke until on the way home, and on my way home I was smoking this marijuana blunt, this cigar. On West Muhammad Ali Boulevard, just a few blocks from my residence, I was stopped at a light. It was between probably 8 and 9:30 p.m. at night. The streets were not crowded. Uh, Stopped at a light, and a person, a black man, uh, I noticed him standing on the sidewalk to the left of my vehicle, and it was one of those situations where you're stopped at a light and there's no one around. There's no other cars. Um, and I noticed this person waving at me, trying to flag me down for some reason. I'd had incidents like that in various places in the city where uh, what I would perceive to be drug users or panhandlers of some sort were initiating contact in order to ask for something from someone. It was a cold night, as I recall. Not not winter cold, but it was probably in the 40s or 50s. I didn't have my windows down, which I typically do when there's warm weather, and so at any rate, I wasn't rolling. My window wasn't down, and I could not vocally communicate with this person. Um, I did what I guess most people would probably do in a circumstance, and I tried to ignore that this person was attempting to communicate with me. Uh, the light seemed to be on a timer of some sort without any kind of sensors involved, and it seemed to go on for a moment, him persisting in trying to flag me down, get my attention, which went on for 5 to 10 seconds, I would guess, until the point where he seemed to get, and I wasn't like looking at him directly, but I have peripheral vision, I guess a lot of people do, and I could see what was going on, and I could see that he was becoming somewhat frantic in his movements. So then I looked, and when I looked, he, in an aggressive way, approached my vehicle. He didn't look happy. I panicked, looked around, and I could see no other vehicle in sight, no pedestrians in sight other than him. The only thing I noticed as far as vehicles were concerned were some headlights in my rearview mirror several blocks behind me. And so I ran the light and just left him standing there because I felt like I was uncertain of what his intentions were. He just seemed aggressive. And my house, my residence is like in sight. I'm just a couple blocks away from where I live at best. This is a one-way street, mind you. So I run the light. The light is red as I proceed through it. I drive on up. And my plan is, well, if he comes running after me, then I'll be in the house and there's locks on the door and he's not going to be able to break the door down without considerable effort. And I didn't feel like that was a concern. So I ran the light. My residence was on my left-hand side of the road, the south side of the street. We parked in front of the house. There's parallel parking in front of these places. So I pulled over to park, and as I'm pulling over to park, I notice the headlights that I had observed in the distance in my rearview mirror were very quickly rushing up behind me. And having had numerous infractions with law enforcement in my life prior to this incident, my immediate realization was this is the police, and it was. So I'm parked in front of my house. My car is already off. This officer pulls up behind me, not directly behind me in a parallel parking position, but he stops right in the middle of the street, like the center lane, if you want to call it that. I can't remember if it's a 2 or 3 lane driving scenario there. But at any rate, he stopped right in the middle of the road. Thought that was unusual. White officer gets out, comes to my window, and mind you, I was smoking the blunt during this whole situation. So if you want to say I was hallucinating or tripping or overreacting to the initial occurrence with this guy approaching my vehicle, say what you want to say. All I know is that's what happened. So I don't have much time to put this blunt out. I think I maybe had time to discard it. I don't remember what I did with the blunt. It was probably almost gone at this point. I don't remember. What I do know is that it was terribly obvious that I was smoking, and the car reeked of weed, both burning and not, because I just bought an ounce of marijuana that was expensive and high dollar potent stuff. So I knew there was going to be no hiding it from this person, but I was also unfamiliar with Louisville laws in regards to cannabis, so I had no idea what to expect. I was from Nashville, and specifically Williamson County, where if you get caught with a little bit of weed, like a roach or something, they're going to take you to jail. So I'm in panic mode already. As a restaurant manager that has to be at work at 5:30 the next morning to open my restaurant. I roll down the window. He is initially jovial about the thing, asking me if I have it, telling me I should just tell him. I deny the whole thing. Like, I didn't know what else to do. Uh, I'm like, he's going to see it. He's going to find it anyway. There's no way he's not going to search this car and find this, which he did. So I ended up getting out of my car, and I don't. I guess he made it really clear that he knew it was in there as he got me out of the car and he handcuffed me. About the time he handcuffed me, another car pulls up with 2 officers in it next to his car. And so between the 2 cars, they're basically blocking the entire road. No one could drive by at this point if they wanted to, which for anyone driving, that's no problem. If you're familiar with the layout of the blocks in that area, they can just take another road and go around it. It's no big deal. So anyway, he found the bag of weed, which was in my door pocket immediately, and started joking about it. Why didn't you just tell me? You're an idiot. This is a white on white conversation. I was 26 at the time. He appeared to be about my age. And everything changed when his fellow officers got there. Got out of their car. One of them, somewhere on the ground, I don't see, behind my car, picks up a piece of what I later discovered. What he comes very aggressively to my face. I don't know where. I really don't know if he picked this up off the ground or if he already had it in his hand. I don't know. All I know is he came very aggressively towards me. I'm already in handcuffs, leaning against my car, like the back side of my car on the driver's side, and insists that he just found a push rod, that I'm on crack, and I'm all nervous because I'm high on crack. And then the 3 of them put me first they pushed me against the chain link fence that was in front of our house, our residence. Really rough, to the point where I start to fall. And instead of catching me and stopping me from falling, they push me face down on the sidewalk. And very aggressively, I got knees in my back. They're hitting me. I'm defenseless. I have no weapons on me at all. For that, I'm in handcuffs, on my face, on the ground, and they're starting to beat me, insisting that I'm high on crack. Why didn't you tell me about this push rod? Why didn't you tell us about this? We're going to take you and do this and this and this. And I'm like, all right, I don't know what you're talking about. Of course I'm nervous. You just found a bunch of weed on me. I'm trying to reason with them, like, why I should logically be nervous based on the circumstance. And I don't have any crack. I don't smoke crack. I don't know what you're talking about. At that point, I'd never even heard of a push rod. I've never hung out with people that smoked crack on a regular basis or anything like that. I just don't know about it. I'm ignorant. And very suddenly, once they let me experience the fear of the moment for a couple of minutes, insisting and being physically aggressive, and I didn't come away with any major cuts or bruises, but I was banged up for sure. All of a sudden, it just turns into a big joke. They're laughing at me, making fun of me, calling me an idiot. The 2 officers that had come together go get in their car, while the one that pulled me over starts to, as I perceive it, feel bad about what's going on, like it's gone too far. And he starts to explain to me that he's going to have to arrest me, which I had taken for granted from the beginning, based on prior experience with the police and marijuana where I live. So, he puts me in his car. I'm secured, and let me also go into this. So, in the midst of the situation, before he put me in the car, while they got me on the ground, accusing me of being high on crack and using a push rod, and where's my crack pipe? He's got my driver's license, which clearly says this is where I live, 1518 whatever letter, I don't remember, West Muhammad Ali Boulevard. But they're saying that I don't live there, that I'm here to buy drugs, that I don't belong on this side of town. They're just going into all this talk about how this is a neighborhood for black people, not white people. You shouldn't be here. You don't belong here. You know, he's got my license in his hand, claiming that it's fraudulent somehow, without actually saying that, but just saying that you don't live here. You don't. Why did you stop here? You just stopped here because you're high. You know, all this bullshit. Um, anyway, he gets me in the car. The other two go get in their car, and the guy that made the stop, whose car I'm in, becomes at that point somewhat remorseful. He's apologizing to me. Why didn't you just tell me? Why didn't you just tell me? We wouldn't have to do all this. I wouldn't have to take you to jail. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? That's like an ounce of weed. Yeah, that's just, we just give citations for that here. And I'm like, great. Yeah, man, if you would have just told me, I could have just written you a ticket and you could just gone inside. Right about this time where he starts explaining to me the scenario, the actual scenario, the other officers get on their loudspeaker in their car and start intimidating him for talking to me. Basically saying things like, oh, you're going to wipe his ass. Oh, you're not going to arrest him. Oh, you're going to give him a break. I mean, just really talking crap to him. And mind you, all three of these officers are white guys that are from my mid-20s to early 30s at best. We're all about the same age. But they're talking crap to him. They're giving him hell. Because for a minute, I almost felt like, had they not have been there, that he would have, if they would have just left, I felt like maybe he would have been like, all right, we're just going to take this and I'll write you a ticket and we'll be done with it, kind of thing. Maybe he wouldn't even have written me a ticket. Maybe they would have just gone and smoked the bag. I have no idea. But anyway, they were really, mind you, they've still got the whole road blocked. It's like 9 at night by now, dark outside, and they're on their loudspeakers for the entire neighborhood to hear what they're saying, talking crap to him about the way he's handling me, which turned out to be in a pretty understanding way after the fact. So he ends up taking me to jail. I get to jail, and my experiences with being arrested in a holding cell situation and detained prior to this, they were at times pretty frightening. I've been arrested in Nashville Metro a couple times before this, and that facility was a death trap. It's now torn down. They tore that down and rebuilt it a few years ago, and I swear, I'm not exaggerating, when I drove by that place and saw that it was demolished, I literally cried because I was so happy to think that no one else would have to set foot in that place and go through what I went through in that place just after being arrested for the same thing, like having weed or something. It was horrifying. At any rate, that was my experience in a metro area, a horrifying experience in a facility. No, I walk into this place. He walks me into the Louisville Metro, and it's like a picnic area. First of all, there's men and women just hanging out, watching TV. I want to say there are people smoking cigarettes. I can't confirm that, but that's what I remember. Maybe I'm wrong. But at any rate, it was just, there was no holding cell at all. It was just like everyone's just hanging out, watching TV. Men and women. People flirting with each other. People just having a great time in this place. Like it was like a joke. He makes it clear to me at that point that this is going to be no big deal. They're going to let me out on judicial restraint, I guess it's called. He makes it really clear that I'm going to sit here for a little bit. I'm going to have to sign some paperwork and they're going to let me out. Judicial diversion, that's what it was. And so that's what happens. I just hang out there for a few hours, sign some paperwork, and they're like, oh yeah, that's all, this is no big deal. Come to court on this date, blah, blah, blah. And while I'm waiting to get out, Like, I'm still in the facility. I meet this guy who tells me his name is, I'll just leave that all out. But at any rate, I had just bought a bag of weed, smoked my last blunt, and before I leave the detention facility, the jail, the whatever, the holding area, mind you, they just let me out, no bond, which is great. I'm not complaining about that. And before I leave the place, I've already got another guy saying, "Oh, if you need some more," I mean, we're talking about the thing that just happened. He's not surprised. "Oh, here's my number. Call me in a little bit if you need some more." Nice. So I end up getting out uh, in time to go open my restaurant. I had to walk quite a ways in order to get back to my car, back to my house, but it wasn't bad. I wasn't far from home. He didn't take me far, wherever we were. I get the hookup on some more weed, get to work, call the guy. He comes through my drive-through, sells me another bag of weed. Boom. So there's that. That's just funny. Uh, but I'll finish by saying that I was still, even after all of this, intimidated by my experiences in the Nashville area with marijuana. So I hire an attorney. I think I pay the guy like $1,500, $750, something like that, to go to court and be given a class. A little bit, like, I think I paid like a $50 fine and went to a class that was supposed to be about marijuana use and the hazards of it, which turned out to be nothing but a room full of users. Maybe 20 of us, I don't know, 15 of us. And the person in charge of the class basically acknowledged that this was a joke, that there was no reason for us to be there. And for like 30 minutes to an hour, however long the class was, all of us just told our stories, just strange stories like I'm just telling, stupid stories about getting high, about buying weed. I mean, all this to say there was no effort made to fix supposing it's a problem. So there was no effort to fix the problem. It was just give us money, go home, in every way, and that's it. I mean, that's my Louisville Metro Police experience, and with the judicial system in Louisville. Uh, so, not surprised to see. I had other interactions with them via other people that I knew. Like, I knew people that were friends with officers that I never met face to face, but I talked to on the phone. In fact, I'll say this is my friend who claimed to be friends with an officer whose name I remember and won't mention offered to get me on the phone with this officer to receive some instruction about what to do in court. So he calls the guy up, puts me on the phone with him. He's seems to be another white guy about my age, and he reassures me that it's going to be no big deal. Tells me that they're probably not going to give me any kind of drug test. I was hoping maybe that I could stop smoking, and if they gave me a drug test on the spot, that maybe it would just all be dismissed. He made it clear that he doubted that would be a thing because it's just not taken seriously. It's not a serious offense in that area. Me being paranoid, I still stopped and went and got a cleansing drink and all that just to make sure. Of course, I got to court and that wasn't a thing, and it was just the class. But I thought it was funny that they were even enforcing this law in any way, and it was obviously just a money racket. So I'm still alive. No one beat down my door and killed me without a warrant. Obviously I'm not comparing my experience with Breana Taylor. I mean, that's extreme, and I can only guess that that's not an isolated incident, but it's the one that has come to light. So my condolences to everyone involved in that who is suffering based on what happened there. But I felt like I felt like what I saw today sort of, there was a lot of talk of civil rights and and constitutional legalities, which of course are right and true. But the feeling I got based on what I saw was white on black, calling names, racial slurs, and all that. And I mean, that's probably a thing. I don't know. But what I feel like I want to suggest is that it's not insulated, it's not isolated to white on black. I think there's obviously white on white and black on black also. So I wouldn't want to see this get blown into something where it's like white versus black, or police versus the public, or white police versus the black public. I don't agree with that. And so that's why I'm posting this. And again, I don't live there anymore, and my experience is very limited. But based on my own experience, I would only suggest that anyone that might watch this get more information and at least entertain the idea that let's not turn this into a white and black battle. Let's just look at it for what it is, which is officers, regardless of what color their skin is, having issues that are trickling down from the top, having issues that are personal, and taking it out on the public through whatever means they feel like they can get away with. And corruption is corruption, and there's no excuse, there's no justification for any of it, and there's nothing good about it. So I hope someone sees this, and I hope this helps someone.